And we're back again with That Handicapping Show. I'm Claire Novak here with Frank Angst, a special Thanksgiving edition of the Handicapping Show. So the usual suspects have departed for family places. But we're here to talk about the Clark Handicap going 1 1/8 at Churchill Downs on Friday the 23rd. And Frank has some interesting opinions here, so I'll turn it over to him and let him talk about his picks before I come back to mine.
As often happens, this race is a very intriguing race again this year. You have some 3-year-olds looking to get started for kind of rolling into next year. You have some horses like Shackelford, who this will be his final start, so trying to get one last bit of glory before he goes off to the Stallion Barn. The horse I looked at, though, was in that first category. I talked about a 3-year-old that's looking to get something started as they go into next season, and that's Take Charge Indy. The Florida Derby winner, don't forget that. Just ran huge in that race earlier this year. Had a long layoff, but came back at Keeneland in the Fayette Stakes, set all the fractions, and it was difficult that day to go gate to wire. And this horse led throughout and led deep in the stretch on the first start off the layoff. And you look back at the fractions, and they were very solid. I just think that sets him up well to run a big race at Churchill. He's 0 for 2 at Churchill, which could be a problem, but the Derby was kind of just not his day.
Well, he got hurt in the Derby.
Yeah, exactly, and he didn't embarrass himself in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He's had 2 big workouts, he's worked there at Churchill regularly, but 2 bullet workouts recently really caught my eye. So I think this horse is poised to run a big race on Friday.
I was so excited about him coming back off the layup because some of those horses that we saw come back off the layup, like Algorithms, didn't end up making it back to the races. I was looking forward to a horse like Creative Cause, and he's also one that didn't make it. So the fact that this horse is still running, you know, hopefully we'll see some good things from him this year going into next year. You talk about the 3-year-olds, and of course we've got Bourbon Courage in here, who was the Super Derby winner by 5 lengths. And then he came back in the Indiana Derby. He got hung out wide. He got a pretty bad trip and finished second to Neck and Neck, who then got injured in a workout.
Yeah, Neck and Neck was pointing to this race, but won't be able to make it because of injury.
But Neck and Neck actually flattered Bourbon Courage when he came back and won the ACAC handicap at Churchill very nicely over Breeders' Cup weekend. What are your thoughts about this one in here?
I actually have Bourbon Courage as my runner-up. I kind of like a lot of times to take a front runner as my winner and maybe the closer that picks up the pieces for second, and that's kind of what I see happening in this race. You know, a horse that we haven't talked about yet, who may well be the favorite, is Shackelford. Rightfully so. He's a classic winner. He's won the Met Mile this year. He's going to go to 2 turns for his final career start, but you know, he showed in the Preakness that he could handle 2 turns.
Sure.
And the horse, he's got 3 straight losses, but he does have some excuses in those losses. The 6 furlong race at Saratoga, it was a really off track that day, and it's a strange thing. It was some days you have that track where just strange things happen, and that happened all day when he ran off the board there. Then he comes back and runs second in the Kelso, which no shame in that. Jersey Town beat him, which is will probably be a favorite at Aqueduct this weekend. And then runs in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and he didn't get to that lead and get to the rail, which seemed to be the secret for success all weekend at the Breeders' Cup this year. And so he was kind of running up against the bias there. So yeah, you don't like the fact that he's had 3 straight losses, but he has had some excuses, especially in the two races where he was off the board.
Now, is that going to round out your trifecta, or are you just kind of you're going to stay away from him? What's the
Shackelford? It's hard to see a scenario where he doesn't hit the board, but it might be fun to take some longer shots in third, just to go for a big payout if you're going to play the trifectas. Steel Case still intrigues me, just mainly because they keep there's so much commitment to the horse. They keep giving him chances. So that sort of tells me that there's some reason for that confidence, and
he finished third in the ACAC last
and maybe
time
at some
out.
point he springs a nice race.
Well, I'll take the other Cassie, and I'm going to go with Pool Play. I remember this horse. I remember being at Saratoga and having to go to Mark Cassie's barn to write the retirement story on this horse when he had the tendon injury. They brought him back from that, and he won the Hawthorne Gold Cup. And he had been undefeated on dirt until he went out to Santa Anita. And when he ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic, like you said about the track, just, you know, not really fair to knock him for that race on that surface. I think He's going to do well at Churchill. He won the Stephen Foster
Yes.
here. And he's probably a horse that's going to get overlooked a little bit in the betting just because of his recent PPs, but I think he likes it at Churchill. And another thing is when he won the Stephen Foster, you were talking about those closers, and he circled 9 wide before he just got up in time. So I'm going to take a look at him. And another horse that'll have some value that I want to take a look at is Cease. He was second in the Hawthorne Gold Cup. You can tell the Illinois bred in me is kind of going for those horses that ran at Hawthorne. But this is a horse, you know, he was second in the Hawthorne Gold Cup. He was third in the Woodward. I just think that he might be somebody that would again tend to get overlooked. And Alstall has been hitting at a great rate at Churchill Downs. Congratulations to Team Stall for all their hard work up there. They've just been doing a great job. So I'm going to go with a couple of longer shots, but I do think that Bourbon Courage definitely has a chance to be up there too. He needs to get a good trip, and this is a horse that earlier in the year at Fairgrounds was very impressive, and so hopefully he gets in the clear and has a chance to do his thing.
Yeah, and as far as my top pick, I'm sticking with Take Charge Indy. Just really liked his last race in the Fayette, and I think he improves off of that and gets a win here.
3-year-olds against older horses. We'll see what happens. It's always a great race at Churchill Downs, and we thank Briss, as usual, for the PPs.